Saludos amigos, los invitamos a escuchar la mesa redonda de RoundTable, donde discutimos los temas del día, hablando de política, educación y otros temas, locales, regionales y mundiales, por USA la Radio. Señores oyentes de USA Media, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de RoundTable, desde el corazón del barrio hispano, en la ciudad del amor fraternal. Les habla Fernando Méndez en compañía de Dylan Altablero. Bueno, hay noticias locales, como de costumbre, de esta región, que nos llegan por medio de Billy Penn. Noticias nacionales, que compilamos de muchas fuentes. Pero vamos a empezar con lo de Billy Penn. Que lo nacional puede esperar un rato, aunque hay una cantidad de noticias provenientes de Washington. Como de costumbre, pues todas enfocadas sobre nuestro presidente. The Billy Penn, how 3 seconds could help fix the traffic in Center City. There's a new light installed at the busy 15th and Market Street intersection. Probably everybody who lives in Philly at one point or another goes through that intersection. That is exactly where City Hall is. It's 14 is Broad Street, and that area around 15th, also around 13th and Market, and north and south of Broad Street. It's an area of traffic congestion, and depending on what time of the day, also congested with people getting out of their jobs or arriving. So there is a new light installed at the busy 15th and Market Street intersection. You might not notice it. It's just a single white line that flips from vertical to horizontal and back again. What's it doing? It's called a Q jump signal. Plant Philly reports, and it gives SEPTA buses an extra 3 seconds to get out in front of traffic before other vehicles get a chance. It's working in other cities to calm congestion. So they are trying here in Philly, see if it helps our traffic congestion, especially around City Hall. Officials say they're watching closely to see, they said, this is a test case at 15th and Market. If you pay attention, you probably see the light. Philly Democrats and Republicans grapple with third-party win. Political leaders in Philadelphia woke up Tuesday, to a major upset in the established order on city council. Democratic boss Bob Brady claimed it was only the Republicans who got hurt. They lost their seat, after all, as Brady attributed the win by Working Families Party's Kendra Brooks to pure money. Council member Helen Gim suggested it points to a need to recognize the growing progressive movement. Meanwhile, GOP leader Michael Meehan said his party has no idea what we're going to do. And that is probably one of the key problems in the city. I'm sorry, Michael Meehan has not done much to revive the Republican Party in this city, and now they, on top of everything, they lost a seat. And to go from a Republican to a progressive, that is quite a shift. Of course, it's a city, it's a council at large. So, but still, it also indicates the weakness of the Republican Party in the city. They could not even protect that one seat. So, anyway, so from Billy Penn, and again, much credit to our friends at Billy Penn. Uh, we know that Dania Henninger has done a great job with this outfit. And now she's introducing us to a person who's taking pictures of Philly, Mark Henninger, is Dania's husband, who has uploaded 400,000 pictures over the past year on Google Street View. If you have checked out Philly Park or attractions on Google Street View lately, you've probably seen imagery by Mark Henninger, who has uploaded 400,000 pics over the past year. If you are a Billy Penn member, you've seen his pictures too. He happens to be editor Dania Henninger's husband. Um, technically, Philly has a feature on his mission to remap the entire city in high-resolution sunny form. Congratulations to Mark and to Danny. The combined victories of Kendra Brooks, Catherine Gilmore Richardson, Derek Green, and Isaiah Thomas mark the first time four African Americans have won at-large seats in Philadelphia City Council. So there you are. Again, this surprising victory by Kendra Brooks indicates a shift towards a more liberal agenda on City Council. She's progressive. And the Republicans, again, unable to gain ground in this city. We have said for a long time, and do not hesitate to repeat, that as long as we have a one-party rule, the Democratic Party has controlled this city for over 6 decades. As long as they remain in power for that long, it's an opportunity for corruption, for embezzlement, for a cozy relationships that are often outside the law. So that's why we have seen some very sort of suspicious developments recently on the part of some members of City Council. Most of them, we have to say, most of the members of City Council work very hard for the good of the city. So not all of them should be painted with the same brush. We just repeat that the Republican Party needs to be revived. The Republican Party needs to present credible candidates and work hard to get them elected. But that's not happening at this moment. So here we go. Instead of taking steps forward, they have lost ground on City Council. Why doesn't Philly have rent control? Working Families Party platform asks. And so that's part of the thing, that they are interested in helping the people, and the other parties apparently, well, especially the Republican Party, seem to be working against the poor in this city. How a piece of piping installed when Richard Nixon was president went without being checked until it caused the South Philly refinery fire. There you are. If you are concerned about safety, this is one case in which obviously somebody neglected a basic check. Somebody neglected to make sure that all the systems are functioning properly, that all the pipes are in order, etc. And one piece of piping installed when Richard Nixon was president. So that means back to 68 to 72. And since then, in all that time, 38, 47 years, not checking it. Another segment from Billy Penn. I grew up poor in a predominantly Latinx neighborhood. I have lived through sex work, survival sex work, racism, and poverty. That is from Billy Penn. Meet Valencia Rosario of the Trans Equity Project in Citywide Stories. So you can check that story on Billy Penn, get acquainted with this character who has gone through a lot of suffering, a lot. This person has seen a lot of what we complain about every day in this city: poverty, probably drugs, etc. So meet Valencia Rosario of the Trans Equity Project. That's from Billy Penn website. College students can visit the barns for free on Friday. Very interesting. It's one of the great art collections in the world, and we have it in this city. And it has been expensive for many people to go see this collection. You have to be a member of the Barnes Museum. As we know, that museum was moved from the City Line area to Center City, and it was very difficult to do. It was controversial. People were concerned about the state of the collection once it was moved. But all the critics have now seen what they have done with this collection, which is now at the Barnes Museum, right on the Parkway, and is one of the best art collections in the world. And now college students can visit the Barnes for free on Fridays. It should be free as many days as possible, but at least on Fridays they can go and appreciate some fantastic pieces of art that live here in our city of brotherly love. Well, friends, we have reached the end of this segment here in Usala Radio. Les habla Fernando Méndez desde la Mesa Redonda de RoundTable en compañía de Dylan al tablero. Regresamos en un momento con más noticias y comentario. No se vayan.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
If you love them enough to suck the snot out of their nose at 4 a.m., then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Señoras oyentes de USA la Media, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de RoundTable, desde el corazón del barrio hispano en la ciudad del amor fraternal. Estamos en compañía de Dylan al tablero y estábamos hablando de el Museo Barnes, que está en el centro de nuestra ciudad, en el Parkway, no, no muy lejos del Museo de Arte, y las escaleras que hizo famosas un personaje del cine, Rocky Balboa. Y, pero en el Parkway es un área rica en arte y especialmente en este museo de Barnes ahora, donde nos anunciaron que los estudiantes de la universidad, college students, pueden ir gratis los viernes. Como digo yo, debían ir gratis cualquier día en que el museo esté abierto, pero eso es una propuesta para el futuro. Tal vez tengan miedo de que se llene demasiado de jóvenes si todos los estudiantes universitarios deciden asistir, pero se puede controlar eso por medio de pedirles que hagan reservaciones para ir al museo. A pesar de que es gratis, si usted puede reservar su sitio, sería más cómodo para todo el mundo. Más noticias del centro de la ciudad. No more cannoli at Giuseppe and Sons in Center City. Classic South Philly staple. Termini Brothers pulled out of the Schulzen restaurant. Dangerous special. $2 martinis all day. As Nick Elmy's Royal Boucherie celebrated 2 years in Old City. We're not sure if that was from yesterday or for today, but anyway, so if you want to find out, maybe you can investigate this. How did the Super Bowl win change the Eagles? The current era isn't about dominance. So, yeah, everybody was hoping that the Eagles would create sort of a dynasty that would win more than one Super Bowl, but it looks less and less likely now. On the other hand, the Sixers may be ranked number 1 or 2 by a ton of national basketball writers, but they suffered their second defeat on the season last Wednesday to the Utah Jazz, and Ben Simmons injured his shoulder, and we know he's a very valuable player for the Sixers. Washington Post ranked the most famous movie steps. And so, guess what? That's what we mentioned, the steps of this Philadelphia institution. So, if you haven't guessed by now, we have to tell you that it has to do with a movie that was filmed in Philadelphia. By Sylvester Stallone. It's called Rocky Balboa made the steps of the museum. It's one of those things that every tourist that comes to Philly feels they must do. Go up and down the steps of the art museum. So, that's as far as Billy Penn news that we had from before. Now we have from the Tuesday election that it marked a historic moment again, the Working Families Party's Kendra Brooks. We have also a segment in the news from City and State. In the aftermath of the 2019 blue wave, the Inquirer asked, what do this year's results mean for next year's presidential election? Indeed, what can we deduct from this? What is the message sent by the voters concerning the elections of 2020. It seems that, for the most part, the Democrats won in Virginia, and uh, they want they have no reason to celebrate really because they they need to win. Basically, they need to win in 6 states that gave Donald Trump the victory in 2016, and that still remains a place where the election will be fought. This, we will name these states soon, but Pennsylvania is one of them, and we'll name the other 5. So we will discuss the election of 2020 in another segment. For now, um, profiles in Capital Star, the Commonwealth U.S. House freshman, are profiled, and they will be at the center of the Trump impeachment inquiry. So these are people who are right now members of Congress who will be at the center of that inquiry. The inquiry breaks down how Kendra Brooks beat the odds and the establishment to win her city council race on Tuesday. So pay attention to that in the Philadelphia Inquirer. African American candidates made historic gains in this week's election, and that is in the Tribune. Billy Penn assesses the fallout from Kendra Brooks' landmark victory in the Philadelphia City Council at large upon the city's Democratic and Republican establishment. WHYY unpacks Philadelphia City Council member David O's big win to see the key feature of this. I mean, what does it mean, a victory by David O? So that's for the regional discussion. Again, we must emphasize the message that we said before. The victory of Kendra Brooks is a landmark victory in so many ways because she now adds her number to the other 3 African American members of City Council. But more than that, the message here from the electorate is that being a progressive, seeming to hold sort of extreme liberal ideas, is not disqualifying to become a member of City Council. That should be a message to the Republicans who are still holding to old ideas, to whatever their principles are, the platforms that they defend. Many of them, the Republicans, still defending Donald Trump, still defending an administration that has shown that they are anti-immigrant, that they are anti-Muslim, that they are anti-poor. And that is what identifies the Republican Party. If they are wondering why they lost one more seat on City Council, why they have no power in the city of Philadelphia, they should just look at themselves in the mirror. This is who you are. You are considered to be unethical, because if you defend this president, you are defending the whatever philosophy he espouses. And he has shown that he is willing to do anything to hold on to power. Republicans in this city have no power, and you will not gain power as long as you are identified with the principles that Donald Trump is defending right now. Whatever, no principles, lack of principles that he espouses. If you believe that he is the right person to govern this country, then you will be out of power in Philadelphia for a very, very long time. How do you resurrect a moribund party? Party that's, forget about moribund, a party that is dead. There's no power in Philly for the GOP. There's no place for a platform of racism, anti-immigrant, anti-human rights, anti-Muslim, anti-freedom of the press. Because that is who Donald Trump is, and that is what he represents. And as long as he is the head of that party, that's who you Republicans in this city, that's who you are. It's unfortunate, but his allies in Washington also have shown their true colors. So we'll talk about that too, because it is revolting to see what has happened to many of these Republican leaders in Congress, in the Senate, particularly, from Moscow Mitch to Lindsey Graham, and what they have done to the image of the Republican Party. And that image that is reflected in what is happening in Philadelphia, what is happening in other cities around this country, where the Republicans are losing ground because of what they represent. When Donald Trump complains about the large cities governed by Democrats that are rat infested, that are filled with poverty and crime, that is the image that the Republican Party is projecting, one of not caring, just pointing out what is happening, and as though they are not responsible for anything. Well, they are not responsible for that in Philly, not directly, but they are responsible for not having the power to counteract the power of a party that also has not contributed to defeat poverty, that has allowed this city to be mired in drugs, to become a place where people who want drugs from all over this country could come to one particular section of the city. So that's where we are with the GOP in Philly, and well, good luck to them trying to revive that party in this city, as long as you adhere to the platform of Donald Trump. Bueno amigos, hemos llegado al final de este segmento aquí en USA la Media, en la mesa redonda. Les habla Fernando Méndez en compañía de Dylan al tablero. No se vayan, regresamos en un momento.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text to emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie. Nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Sometimes the things we do or say can make others feel hurt, excluded, or isolated. Everything you say and do creates an impact.
How am I supposed to save the whole world?
You can't think about saving the world. You have to think about saving one person.
Because of you, someone's entire life can change. You don't have to be a superhero to have a positive impact.
Friends?
Friends.
Señores oyentes de Úsala Media, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda, desde el corazón de Barrio Hispano en la ciudad del amor fraternal, en donde los republicanos tienen menos poder que nunca, less power than ever in this city. Republican Party should be declared to be in the ER, in the emergency room. I don't know. Nothing can revive this party. Now they lost another seat. So anyway, don't want to talk about that anymore. I'm tired of that. There is more news, national news. As I mentioned in one of the previous segments, according to the experts, six states will decide the presidential election in 2020. Según los expertos, 6 estados van a decidir las elecciones del 2020, las elecciones presidenciales del 2020. No hay ninguna sorpresa, ya los conocemos. It's no surprise in what the states are. We already know who they are. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Florida, and North Carolina. That's where the election... I wonder if that means, according to the experts, that's where the battle will be for the presidency. So I wonder if the other states should just give up and don't hold elections and spend all that money doing it. Just say, listen, why don't you just vote? Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, and allow the candidates to just travel to those 6 states, up and down Pennsylvania, up and down Wisconsin, Arizona, Florida, where the weather is probably better. I don't know that anybody wants to spend a lot of time in Michigan, especially in the winter. But so there are good places to go. Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, you can go travel around. And that way you can win the election of 2020 instead of conceding it to Donald Trump. It is amazing. It is amazing that this man, who has no credibility, no morals, no ethical principles, no reliable platform, it's not sharing power even with other Republicans. It's a man who believes that he is the smartest person in the room, no matter what room he finds himself in. I would like him to go to a meeting of Mensa and see what he says. I'm the smartest man in the room. I doubt it. But anyway, that's his belief. So this super brain is going to beat the Democrats in 2020 in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Florida, and North Carolina. Now, think of this. Pennsylvania, in the midterm election in 2018, did some damage to the Democrats. So let's see if that happens in 2020. We see a slight movement to the center and to more liberal ideas in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and in Florida, but not so much in Arizona or North Carolina. But we'll find out. And so let's prepare ourselves to get acquainted with the electorate in these states. Think about this. The two of the most important states, California and New York, dos de los estados más importantes, California y Nueva York, parece que no van a contar. ¿Cómo es posible? No van a contar en las elecciones del 2020. Si los expertos tienen razón y las elecciones se van a decidir en estos 6 estados, Nueva York y California, 2 estados muy importantes que siempre han estado en el puro centro de todas las batallas políticas, porque son los extremos geográficos, pero también California ha ido evolucionando desde la era de Ronald Reagan. Recordemos que ahí estaba también el gobernador Brown, una persona extremadamente liberal. Sí, en California hay campo para todo. Lo mismo en Nueva York, en donde hubo gobernadores como Rockefeller, en donde Mayor Bloomberg gobernó la ciudad de Nueva York con mucho éxito. Estos dos estados de suma importancia para el país, porque California especialmente es un estado muy rico. Según los expertos, California podría ser, siendo una nación independiente, California estaría entre los entre las 6 naciones más ricas del mundo si fuera una nación independiente. Y esto a pesar de todas las dificultades geográficas que representa el estado de California, de arriba, de norte a sur, donde en este momento hay todavía continúan los incendios que han quemado gran parte de Sonoma y en otras partes cerca de Los Ángeles. Esto recurre cada año, se repite cada año. Pero a pesar de todo esto, a pesar de la falta de agua en el estado de California, especialmente hacia el sur, hacia Los Ángeles y San Diego, donde es constante la batalla para regar los sembrados del sur, donde se considera que California es el jardín de Estados Unidos, en donde crecen las lechugas, los tomates, las frutas. Esto continúa en California a pesar de la sequía, a pesar de los incendios. Repito, es uno de los estados más ricos, pero aparentemente ha perdido importancia. Así que para el 2020, lo que se considera importante en este país es Wisconsin, Arizona, estados en donde, especialmente Wisconsin, ¿no? La población, y en Arizona la población mucho menos que en Nueva York o California. No están densamente poblados. La Florida sí, y la Florida ha cambiado. Excuse me.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Señoras oyentes de USA la Media, estamos aquí de nuevo en la mesa redonda de RoundTable. Mil perdones por la interrupción, pero esto pasa de vez en cuando. Bueno, gracias por la ayuda aquí de Don Dylan. Él es el médico del tablero. Pues estamos hablando de las elecciones nacionales del 2020 y lo que va a pasar con 6 estados en particular que van a dominar, que estos son los campos de batalla en donde se va a luchar Partido Demócrata y Republicano en lucha en Michigan, Pensilvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Florida y Carolina del Norte. Vamos a ver qué pasa. Esto es una batalla que está todavía por verse. And there is a new take on the Trump call to President Zelensky of the Ukraine, not the Ukraine, of Ukraine. It's a new call, a new take on that. And guess who is doing the new take? Some of the Republican defenders of Donald Trump. So, but they're trying to change the meaning of that quid pro quo. But there are also critics who say, stop calling this corrupt event quid pro quo. It is extortion and bribery. It's not quid pro quo in that sense, because quid pro quo implies that you do something in exchange for something else. You do this for me, I do that for you. This was lo que se llama en español chantaje, bribery, because what Zelensky was told is unless you do this, this is like kidnapping the government. Unless you do what I'm telling you to do, unless you come out in public and announce that you're going to start an investigation of Joe Biden and his son and an investigation into the 2016 election, you will not get that money. Change the 400 million for I have your child, and unless you announce that you're going to do this for me, you cannot get your child. And that is what is one of the most corrupt things any government can do against another government. So it's extortion and bribery. Forget about this quid pro quo, which it sounds like a very nice Latin phrase, very learned phrase that people are very proud to use because they understand quid pro quo. But I think in the end, some critics are right. This is not just a quid pro quo. It's corruption at the highest level. It's asking a government to do something illegal just because you have money and that you will not release unless they do what you are asking them to do. Now let's look at Vice President Mike Pence. MSNBC showed Vice President Pence through the years in the context of whistleblowers. And they showed a clip of Pence as a congressman defending whistleblowers. In fact, there is a bill that bears his name and Adam Schiff, in which both sponsor legislation to protect whistleblowers, not to see them obligated to come out to reveal themselves. In order, according to Pence, to protect their identities, in order for them to feel free to reveal whatever misdeeds they must reveal. Remember, this is not only in the context of government, it's whistleblowing in the context of industry, companies that have corrupt practices and have been revealed to have those practices only by means of a whistleblower. So, for decades, Vice President Pence defended whistleblowers, and now he's saying that they have to come out. They have to reveal themselves. Their names should be known. That is Mike Pence at this moment. So he's doing what Donald Trump wants him to do. The White House has increased efforts to identify the whistleblowers. Senator Rand Paul blocked legislation to protect whistleblowers. Democrats say his testimony is not even needed now, with the abundance of witnesses coming forward. That doesn't mean that he should not be protected, he or she. I believe a man, the whistleblower, who revealed what happened in that famous or infamous telephone call between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. It is obvious if you read the script, and we'll talk about that too. If you read the script, it's obvious what Trump was doing. Because there is one line right after Zelensky says, I would like to have the money to defend myself from Russian attacks. There is a line that follows that immediately, and it's Mr. Trump saying, yes, but, and the word is, though, I need a favor from you. There is no mistaking the meaning of that. I'll give you the money, but you must do a favor for me. And the favor was to investigate the Bidens and the 2016 election. There is no mistaking the meaning of that exchange. Now, Senator Rand Paul has joined the ranks of the Trump defenders in this issue. I mean, he's been always on the side of Trump. But now, on this issue, he has contributed his grain of sand, blocking the legislation that would protect whistleblowers. GOP allies cannot find a way to get this story straight. The Democrats are accusing this president of corruption, but the defenders of Trump cannot find a way to coordinate their response. Each time one of them speaks, attempting to explain the unexplainable, they have a different take on what happened. So the most ridiculous defense has come from Senator Lindsey Graham. What a tragic person. This man has gone from being an ally of a very respected personality to being a lackey of Donald Trump. This is a man who now says the people at the White House are too confused, to read that as too stupid, too incoherent, that was his word, to come up with a plan to bribe Zelensky. Here we are. The defense of Trump's actions on the part of Lindsey Graham is that they are too stupid at the White House to come up with a bribery plan. He also said, when someone changes their testimony, it makes one suspicious. And that is regarding the change of mind on the part of Gordon Sondland, who was the ambassador to the European Union, and who played a very important role in this exchange of emails and messages and explanations, and had given testimony before Congress saying that he had no reason to believe that there was any collusion, or that there was no quid pro quo, etc. And then, when he saw that the testimony was becoming public, in other words, we would all be able to read his testimony, and that he was probably in danger of being indicted for lying to Congress and ending up in jail. He changed his mind. Gordon Sondland, the ambassador to the European Union, said, I'm sorry, this is what happened. The reality of that phone call is that Trump wanted Zelensky to do his bidding. So, Senator John Neely Kennedy is another one. He says there are good quid pro quos and corrupt ones, depending on the intent. That's another explanation. A good quid pro quo and a bad one. Although the quid pro quo had another sense in the context of that telephone conversation. Senator Ted Cruz argues the same point. That's not a surprise. But these positions do not align with Trump. He insists there was no quid pro quo, good or bad. There was no quid pro quo. That is Trump's insistence. He says, read the transcript. There were T-shirts behind him at the last rally. The T-shirts said, read the transcript, as though that was the solution to this problem for Mr. Trump. He doesn't realize that in that transcript, precisely because the words that we found in that transcript, the words that Nancy Pelosi saw in the transcript that the White House released as an explanation of the phone call. Remember that transcript is not a verbatim script of the phone call, but it's a gathering of information of many people who participated, who listened to the phone call, and all this information allowed this document to exist. But that is not a true version of the conversation. But Mr. Trump insists that it was a perfect, that is his word, it was a perfect phone call. That's a very strange way to label a phone call. It was a perfect phone call, meaning there was nothing wrong with it. Well, there was plenty wrong, and that is why he is what he is right now, under the cloud of suspicion that he committed a crime. This is talking about high crimes and misdemeanors being the requirements for beginning the impeachment process. The articles of impeachment that Congress will deliver to the Senate. That is the one item that will dictate whether or not Mr. Trump is impeached. He lied. He did try to bribe the president of Ukraine. Other Republicans are saying, well, nothing happened. The money was given, as though that were the point. The money was given because the money had already been assigned by Congress. There was no way to stop that unless Mr. Trump really wanted to look like a criminal. The money had to be released, but that was not because he decided all of a sudden, out of good sense, out of the goodness of his heart, to give Zelensky the money. That action of withholding the money is part of a whole panoply of sins that Mr. Trump committed. Abandoning the Kurds, allowing Putin's platform to rule, allowing Iran to start again research into atomic weapons. This is a whole package. Mr. Trump wants Putin to join the G7. He wants to do everything that Mr. Putin wants, and he has already accomplished a lot of that. That is why I wrote a column saying that if you have not seen the movie The Manchurian Candidate, you should see it. The Manchurian Candidate is Donald Trump. He has done everything possible against our country, and everything possible to serve the platform of Vladimir Putin. And that is one reason this man should be thrown out of the presidency. We don't know if the Democrats have the time, the energy right now to do everything they need to do to impeach Donald Trump and send it to the Senate. If they manage to do that, at least, even if it doesn't pass in the Senate, Moscow Mitch should be embarrassed enough and should be ashamed enough and maybe thrown out on his ass in 2020. Thank you for listening to us today. Muchas gracias por su sintonía aquí en Usa la Radio. Les habla Fernando Méndez, Dylan al tablero. Los esperamos a ustedes. Hasta la próxima.